Welcome to Life with David. I'm David, and today we are following the COVID-19 stay-at-home order that is in effect until at least May 1st. Even as the economy begins to open up, I expect that my wife and I will stay close to home through at least the end of spring. I'm sure vacations are out of the question, so today I decided to revisit our Western New York State vacation from May 2019. Last year, we took advantage of the wonderful New York State parks during our visit to Niagara Falls, Alexandria Bay, Corning, Watkins Glen, and the Allegheny Mountains. So why don't you join me as we look at a few of the highlights of our pre-coronavirus trip to New York. We started our trip in late May 2019 with a visit to the Niagara Falls area. Our first stop was the quaint Canadian town of Niagara-on-the-Lake. Even though it was a little overcast and cold, the town was still bustling. Next, it was time to visit the falls. On our way back, we stopped at the top of the Niagara Escarpment. This cliff extends from New York through Ontario, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and is named for the Niagara River that plunges over it. This is where Niagara Falls was initially formed around 10,000 years ago and has been eroding southward toward Lake Erie at the rate of 1 to 3 feet per year ever since. We've been to Niagara Falls many times over the years, and normally we view them from the Canadian side. However, this time, even though it was a Tuesday, rainy, and school was still in session, the Canadian side was mobbed with no parking spots to be had. So we traveled back to the American side and were pleasantly surprised that New York State was investing heavily in the Falls State Park. We wandered around and got some great views of the falls and the Maid of the Mist boat tour. We then descended the 1950s era glass and steel observation tower to the lower river elevation and got close and personal with the falls. Next was a visit to Goat Island, which separates the American and Horseshoe Falls, to watch over 6 million cubic feet of water going over the falls every minute. We camped for several nights at 4 Mile Creek State Park, about 15 miles north of the falls on Lake Ontario. Our site was very close to the lake, but the wet conditions and the mosquitoes made it difficult to get to the shore. We took a leisurely drive to our next destination, the Thousand Islands area of the St. Lawrence River. We visited the Antique Boat Museum in Clayton. Unfortunately, the river was at record high water levels, and much of the museum was closed because of the river water in the buildings and over the docks. We also took the Uncle Sam boat tour of the St. Lawrence River out of Alexandria Bay. The record high water levels were also causing havoc there, as many of the homes and cottages on the islands we passed by were partially submerged. As part of the tour, we visited Bolt Castle. Again, the record high water levels closed much of the grounds, and we had to use elevated platforms and stairs just to board the boats. The last time we visited Bolt Castle, it was still in the slightly vandalized, unfinished condition that George Bolt left it in 1904 after his wife suddenly died. However, starting in 2000, a controversial restoration was started, resulting in several rooms being completed in a grand but not historically accurate manner. They're nice to look at, but I think it takes away from the original tragic story of the property. We camped at Wellesley Island State Park. To say it was not peak season would be an understatement. It was windy and cold, and as you can see, we were pretty much alone in our campground. However, I really enjoyed walking the trails and watching spring come to the Thousand Island region. Now we turn inland and travel to the Finger Lakes area of New York. We stayed at the Watkins Glen State Park for several nights and explored the area. I really enjoyed hiking the paths around the glen. It was so lush, much like a tropical rainforest. We visited a number of wineries, Cornell University, and the Corning Glass Museum. The Glass Museum was absolutely stunning and had been completely rebuilt since the last time we were there in 1982. The museum offers classes on glass blowing, historical exhibits of early glass artifacts, and a showplace for recent and current glass artisans. One of my favorite exhibits is the failed first attempt to cast the 200-ton, 200-inch Pyrex mirror blank for the Palomar Observatory. Lessons learned during that March 1934 attempt contributed to the success of the second pouring 6 months later. The final leg of our trip was to the Allegheny State Park, where we explored the Allegheny Mountains and Ellicottville. We had lunch at the Ellicottville Brewing Company where I got hooked on their blueberry wheat ale. We wrapped up our trip looking at the outfall of Quaker Lake into the Allegheny River. Thanks for joining me today. We took a look back at a pre-coronavirus Western New York. I hope you enjoyed traveling with me. Unfortunately, it looks like it'll be the closest thing I'll get to a real vacation for several months. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. And leave a comment or suggestion for things to do. I hope to do more of these videos, so please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications of new videos. Let's get together next time for another day in Life with David. See you soon.